The oldest recorded joke on planet Earth is a fart joke. Not a metaphor. Not a theory. An actual, literal, written down fart joke. And it is 4,000 years old. You are Grug. You are sitting in ancient Mesopotamia, stylus in hand, and you have a choice about what to chisel into history forever. And Grug chose farts. The question is, why did humor exist at all, and what does it tell us about every single human who has ever lived? Let us begin at the beginning. Not the very beginning. Grug does not have that kind of time. But close. Humor is old. Embarrassingly old. Scientists and anthropologists believe laughter and playful teasing existed in humans well before written language. Before farming. Before cities. Before the concept of a bad day at work. Grug is sitting in a cave, everything in his life is trying to kill him, and he is still finding time to make fun of his friend for falling down. Nothing has changed. This is the human condition. This is us. Here is the thing about prehistoric humor that nobody talks about. We cannot recover it. Once language existed without writing, the jokes died with the people who told them. Every single punchline from 100,000 years of campfire comedy is just gone. Vanished. The only reason we know the Sumerians were funny is because they invented writing, and apparently the first thing humanity wanted to document was something that sounds like it belongs in a fourth grade classroom. The Sumerians. Let us talk about these people for a second, because they deserve more credit than they get. They lived in what is now modern Iraq around 4,000 years ago. They built cities. They invented mathematics. They created one of the earliest legal codes. They tracked the stars. They were, by any measure, an extraordinarily sophisticated civilization. And their oldest recorded joke, the one that survived millennia, the one that archaeologists carefully translated and then had to reread twice to make sure they got it right, is this. Something which has never occurred since time immemorial. A young woman did not fart in her husband's lap. That is the joke. That is humanity's first documented punchline. The implication being, obviously, that young women fart in their husbands' laps all the time and it is very normal and expected. The absurdity is that this one time, she did not. 4,000 years ago. Chiseled into a clay tablet. Filed somewhere. Preserved for all of history. Grug is proud. Grug feels seen. But here is the crazy part. This is not an anomaly. This is a pattern. Because the second oldest recorded joke is also from Mesopotamia, and it is also about bodily functions. It dates to roughly 1600 BC and goes like this. How do you entertain a bored Sumerian? You take him to a place that has never been visited. You show him something he has never seen. And then he gets bored anyway and wants to go home. That one is more of a social observation. A shrug joke. A joke about the fundamental restlessness of people who are never satisfied. Which, again, nothing has changed. And the third oldest recorded joke, this one from ancient Egypt around 1600 BC, is a joke about a pharaoh. Specifically about how often pharaohs have been doing something they probably should not be doing in public. We will leave the details to your imagination, but the spirit of the joke is very simply, powerful man, undignified situation, everyone is pretending not to notice. This is the original celebrity roast. Ancient Egypt invented dunking on people with too much power, and they wrote it down on papyrus, and Grug respects that enormously. So let us count up what we actually know. Every single one of the oldest jokes in recorded human history is either about bodily functions, about someone embarrassing themselves, or about a powerful person being brought down a notch. Comedy has not moved in 4,000 years. We are still watching the same 3 shows. We just have better lighting. Now, why does any of this matter? Why did early humans joke at all? Here is where it gets genuinely interesting. Researchers in evolutionary psychology have a theory, and it is a good one. Humor served a social function before it was ever entertainment. Laughter is a signal. It says, I am not a threat. It says, we are on the same team. It says, I understand what you understand, and is that not incredible? Shared laughter is basically the original handshake. Grug meets stranger. Grug does not know if stranger will eat him. Grug makes joke about mammoth. Stranger laughs. Grug relaxes. This is diplomacy. This is politics. This is every awkward first date that has ever happened. But here is where it gets more complicated. Humor also served as a test. A way of establishing hierarchy without violence. Think about it. If Grug makes a joke and it lands, Grug has demonstrated intelligence, social awareness, timing, and the ability to read the room. That is a resume. In a world where every other method of proving yourself involves getting injured or eaten, making a room of people laugh is genuinely impressive. Comedy was a survival skill. Stand-up comedy was literally standing up in a dangerous environment and trying not to die. And it gets worse, or better, depending on how you look at it. There is strong evidence that teasing and mockery were used in early human groups to enforce social norms. If someone in the tribe was being selfish, or lazy, or was taking more than their share of the mammoth, the group would mock them. Publicly. In front of everyone. Not violently. Not through a formal system. Just relentlessly, with great comedic precision, until the behavior stopped or the person moved to a different cave. This is the original community guidelines enforcement. Grug gets roasted into compliance. Grug changes behavior. Social harmony restored. We still do this. Every meme you have ever shared is 400,000 years of evolutionary pressure made into a JPEG. You are not scrolling. You are performing ancient social bonding rituals on your phone. You are welcome. Now, back to the Sumerians, because they deserve one more moment of appreciation. The writing system they used, cuneiform, was not invented for jokes. It was invented for receipts. Accounting. Tax records. The earliest surviving pieces of writing in human history are largely inventory lists and debt records. Someone in 3200 BC picked up a stylus and thought, I need to write down how many goats I have. And then a few hundred years later, someone else picked up a stylus and thought, I need to write down this fart joke before I die. Both of these people were right. Both of these impulses made us who we are. Grug wants to be very clear that the fart joke person was more important. There is a word in ancient Sumerian that scholars have translated to mean something close to the concept of a quick-witted person who makes good jokes. The word implies that this was a recognized social role. You could be known, in your community, as the funny one. You could have a reputation for it. People would come to you specifically to hear you make them laugh. Comedy was a known, valued, named profession 4,000 years before anyone had a podcast. And here is the modern mirror that Grug finds absolutely devastating. The Sumerian fart joke survives because someone thought it was worth writing down. They preserved it. They liked it enough that it made it onto a clay tablet that then survived 4,000 years of floods, wars, empire collapses, and the invention of the internet. Meanwhile, there were probably millions of brilliant, sophisticated, genuinely transcendent Sumerian jokes that nobody wrote down, and they are gone forever. The joke that lasted was the fart joke. This tells you everything you need to know about what actually spreads. What travels. What people share at the end of a long day when they just want to feel like someone else understands. Grug did not invent the algorithm. Grug just understands it. Let us also acknowledge the other ancient comedic traditions that survived, because the Sumerians were not alone. Ancient Greece had professional comedians. There were theatrical performances specifically designed to make people laugh, and not gentle, polite laughter. These performances were aggressive, physical, deeply strange. They involved costumes that were intentionally ridiculous, jokes that were extremely rude, and plots that essentially boiled down to, here is a powerful person, watch them fail completely. The Greeks called this comedy. They put it on a stage in front of thousands of people. They gave it prizes. They considered it a civic function. Going to see a comedy in ancient Athens was basically going to vote. You were a participant in something. Grug would have had notes. Ancient Rome took this further and made it meaner and louder, because that is what Rome did with everything. Roman comedy was fast, chaotic, full of characters who were clearly recognizable as specific types of annoying people that everyone in the audience already knew. The braggart who cannot back it up. The miser who will not spend a coin. The young person making very bad decisions about love. These characters were stock figures, recycled across plays for centuries. They are also every TV show you have ever watched. The braggart is in every workplace comedy. The miser is in every holiday movie. The young person making bad decisions about love is the entire streaming industry. Rome did not invent these people. Rome just gave them better togas. And here is the final, genuinely beautiful part of all of this. Humor is the only human behavior that requires two things simultaneously: intelligence and surrender. You have to understand enough to find the gap between what you expected and what actually happened. And then you have to let go of control and fall into that gap and laugh. It is the only moment in human life where being wrong feels good. Where reality surprising you is a gift instead of a threat. Grug lives in a world where reality surprising you usually means something is trying to eat you. And still, Grug laughs. The oldest joke ever written was a fart joke. Not because ancient people were simple, but because they were exactly like us. Tired. Married. Dealing with things they did not ask for. Finding the gap between how dignified life was supposed to be and how it actually was, and deciding that gap was hilarious. 4,000 years of civilization. 4,000 years of war and empire and mathematics and art and medicine and philosophy. And the joke that survived is about a woman who, for once, did not fart on her husband. Grug salutes the Sumerians. Grug is proud to carry on their legacy. And Grug will see you in the next video, where something even older and stranger is waiting, and it is absolutely true, and it is going to make you say no way that is real.